At night, so it's going to be quite a big day. They'll be here from 4 o'clock, so it'll be good to get quite a few members up here to help the public out with their telescopes. I'll be.
Where are the public going to park?
Up in the parking area. Although if some people have got some big gear, we'll direct them around.
Yeah.
But generally they'll park out there.
They'll park up the top part of the car park.
Yeah, just there.
Yeah.
In front of the school camp.
In front of the school camp's up there, isn't it?
No, that's not right.
You're right, you're right. Take it back.
Okay. So yeah, 4 o'clock. The barbecue this week, we're going to just keep it a bit simpler than normal because we've got so many public coming. So if you do want any fancies or whatever, just bring whatever you want for yourself. I don't know, we'll just do sausages. Basically Bunnings style, I think, because we've got so many public coming, we don't want to make it too hard for the members to manage. Now, guess for speakers for that night, I think were you able to do a talk on your dog?
I can do a talk if I have to.
Building a dog.
If
Hopefully
Peter
Peter Lowe is going to do his big Our Telescope Works talk, if he's not still unwell.
He was planning a telescope.
Dave,
Yes, you'll do a talk.
Dave, no, just quickly changing the subject. The last two scout meetings that's been cancelled, I just happened to look the day afterwards because I couldn't make it anyway because I'm moving out. What is it with it? What's happening with the scout business?
I'll let Peter
That's
answer that
two
question.
lots that's been cancelled, and somebody could be standing up there on their own.
Well, the scout nights, we try and do a combined cub scout night where the smaller packs can come up here. But we need to have enough packs to come up and do it. The last one we didn't actually have any book in, it was probably too early in the year, so we'll let that go. What normally happens is the big scout groups, they might get 40, 50 kids and we can do a dedicated night for them. But if they've only got 10 or 12 kids, we try and combine a few different groups together. So we do, what, 6 of them a year? 4, 5? 4 of them a year. The last one didn't happen because I don't think they had enough time. No bookings. The one Sunday was just a calendar error. So I hope no one turned up Sunday.
2 people turned up. One was Peter Lowe, and the other one was Phil Holt.
Oh no. When's the next?
The actual night is the 27th, which is a Wednesday.
Next week, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that's the 20th, so
Yeah.
this time next week.
Yeah.
We'll come back, it'll be all good. And it was about 70 kids, wasn't there? 60, 70?
Yeah.
We want a few telescopes running. You'll also see too, I've got the bookings open for the Vastrock and Astrophotography Workshop. There's been a few questions about this, so I'll try and clarify it. We're just going to keep it really simple. It's $100 entry. If you stay, you stay. If you don't, you don't. There's no, I want, half price if I'm only staying one night. We just said it's $100 across the board, members, non-members. You can bunk at the what do you call that building? The
School
camp.
camp.
The camp for the Friday and Saturday night. The Friday night's going to be fairly informal, I think. There might be just some telescope viewing. We might do a trivia night or something for those that turn up.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. We'll put a barbecue on that night for those that are here. I think Saturday's going to be the busy day. And that'll be starting early actually. We've coordinated, Russell is coming down actually. We're going to do some wildlife photographies and so on, and I've spoken to the ranger there. They're going to organise to try and open up the park down there a bit early for us, so we can try and get in there and get some, they got the emus and stuff in there which might be attractive for people playing with cameras for that end of the workshop. So just something a little bit different. It's going to be a different format from previous Vastrocks. Yes, Fred.
Dave, who's donated a load of books? I was reading an email, somebody's donated a load of magazines, I don't know.
Someone wants to donate some magazines, but someone wants to donate some books.
And some Star Trek.
Yeah.
Where are you going to stick them?
The books are they're buried because the house is being renovated. So in a couple of weeks' time, we'll get a phone call to come and pick them up.
Yeah, okay.
So and the magazines will turn up at some time. Could be Saturday, could be some other time. The person didn't want the books to go to the ASV. He's an ASV member, but he said the ASV have enough books. And he said, he's been here, he's given us a talk at some time in the past, he said. I don't know what the talk was about, but he's an astronomer of sorts, but he said, ASV have enough books, I want to help out MPAS now. I said, okay, we'll take the books off your hand then.
Alright, so going back to the Vastrock, bookings are up, there's plenty of links on our webpage to the book in. Members will need to book in if they're not doing a talk or anything like that. We're also looking for speakers, not looking at anyone. We've got a few already teed up. As far as I know, we've hopefully got the keynote speaker from the Australian Space Agency, we're hoping. They did say yes, and then they thought about the timing of the event and I went, hang on. We've got a lot of engagements. I know so far externally we have Clint was offering to do a talk on his radio astronomy and the project that they're undertaking with their, Greg will show you about later, I think. And Russell also offered to do a talk on solar, being the section director. Is solar section director, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
And Vice President of the ASV.
And Vice President, he's offered to do a talk. So we still need another 2 or 3 speakers, which hopefully will come from other clubs.
President by the time Vastrock turns up.
Sorry?
President by the time Vastrock turns up.
Maybe.
The thing is, you're talking
I
about.
don't know about it.
Votes aren't in yet.
Pardon?
The votes aren't in yet.
Anyone nomination?
Yes, you know, there's someone sitting down. Anyway, we'll talk about that another day. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just saying that this is Vastrock you're talking about.
This is Vastrock. So this year what we've done is we've mixed the astrophotography workshop and Vastrock together. So we're going to try and rejuvenate the event a little bit with some younger people in there. And,
Or kill it, one or the
or
other.
kill it. Well, it's going to die anyway if we don't change it because it's, every year it's getting less and less. So we'll have the traditional Vastrock over there at the camp and we'll have the AP workshop here and people are more than welcome to switch talks.
And the public invited both days, Saturday and
We
Sunday.
still got to pay the entry.
Yeah, and but the public wouldn't, but most of the things on Saturday are gonna be at the camp, I think.
No, here in the camp we have 2 talks running at once.
Right.
So there'll be,
So there'll be 2 things happening at once, all day Saturday and all day Sunday.
no, just on this Saturday. Sunday there's just a few social things happening, there's no formal talks. The feedback we got is one big day
Yeah.
and we sort of cap it off with the dinner that night. So your entry fee includes your barbecue Saturday night, Friday night, lunch Saturday, which we'll probably just get some sanding sent up from the town or something, and we're going to get spit roast or something
Yeah, I think spit roast is the
on
plan.
Sunday. This year we're trying to make it so that the members don't have to actually bust their gut too hard if we can avoid it. So,
And the Sunday will be Science in the Park at Coolart, which can all be under the same banner, and
Yep.
they can come to that for free, so there's no
Yeah.
charge to come to that.
I think we're going to have the wildlife again Sunday morning here, and then they can probably clear out and clean up by lunchtime here, and then go around to Coolart.
Yeah.
All right, I'll hand it over to Greg. A bit of talk.
Yeah.
Guy for the month after.
Yeah, Skype for the month, everything, and wind up on the Messy Star Party. We'll do
Oh.
that too.
Just a quick one. I'll jump in. Snake Valley. I went there last weekend with Jamie. Anyone else in MPAS? No, it's just us two.
No, it's just that.
It was about 20. What's wrong, Steve?
He's got a big show.
He's got.
There's nothing like the umbrella.
Yes. I looked at the weather forecast and went Sunday night's no good. I'm going to go home. Someone else did.
What's this now like?
Hmm?
What's this like? 12 out of 30 if it's cloudy.
It has got a good strike rate.
Camaraderie.
Oh, hang on. Is this a future magazine possibly?
Yeah, what's in there already? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Look at those beautiful clear skies.
yeah. Now there's a laptop there, but I'll let you read the story. But it didn't end up in the lake.
No, it didn't.
There. Slave Valley has a history of poor weather. And this year didn't let us down. But no, Saturday night was actually a clear night right through to about 2.
Oh, later than that, mate. Yeah.
I reckon
It was 10
I
past
reckon
2.
It was clear after you went to bed.
I spent the night walking around playing with some really nice dobs there. There's a lot of dobs around Snake Valley now. There's actually more visual astronomy done there now than astrophotography, I dare say.
Yeah.
It used to be the other way around. It used to be an astrophotography camp. Now it's just rows of dobs and SDMs
That was
and
good to see.
What sort of dogs?
dobs.
Dobsonian
Dogs.
Telescopes.
No.
There'll be a talk on Dobsonians tonight. You can learn what a Dobsonian is.
All right, I'll let Greg take over.
Just start this. Find where I was. Here we go. Okay, right. Yes, I've built a few large telescopes in my time. Well, I built those like nearly 20 years ago. Like the one in the middle was 20 years ago, and then the other two were later on. And the one at the end is technically not a dob, it's on a tracking mount. This is like a 22 inch, an 18 inch and an 18 inch. So when I'll turn off that center light maybe. When I was a boy, my grandfather would take me outside and try and teach me the sky, because we come from a family of sailors, and he would put names on the stars and the constellations, and I didn't take much notice of it. And we did a lot of fishing, so I spent a lot of time sitting on beaches when I was young, looking up at the sky, and the clouds would go whizzing past, and there was these 2 clouds in the sky. In the middle there was 2 clouds there, and I kept seeing these same clouds, and I thought those clouds must be really high up, because they're there each night. There must be very still air. And I didn't know they were large and small magnetic cloud. I just thought they were just other clouds in the sky. And I thought I must get a telescope and have a look at them one day. So when I was about 10 years old, my mother said, what would you like for Christmas? I said, I want a telescope. So Christmas Day came, and I got this box. It was the shape of a shoe box, and I thought, oh no, I've got a pair of shoes instead. I'm not getting a telescope. And I thought, this is bad. And I opened the box up, and there was a microscope in the box. So I raced outside and killed a few bugs and put it under the microscope. And so I've been interested in microscopes all my life. And then sort of life got in the way, and I became an engineer or tool maker, and I was still interested in the sky, and I used to go down to the library and I'd say, where's the books on astronomy? And they said they're down there, and there was a big wall of books, but they were all astrology books, and there was, right down the bottom corner, there was 2 books on astronomy, and there was like 200 on astrology. So I borrowed those 2 books and took them home and read them, and the universe all looked like engineering to me, the way atoms moved and the way the planets moved around. So I thought everything just looks like engineering to me. So I started buying more and more books on astronomy. And actually, when I was at the library, I complained. I said, there's only 2 books on astronomy, and the lady said, we're having a sale next week of all the books that don't get lent out. I think there's some astronomy books there. So I went back on the Saturday, and I walked out with 2 big boxes of astronomy books for 50 cents each. So, and then a few months later, I went down to Frankston and cleaned out their library, because I found that they were having a sale. So they were mostly astronomy books that they were selling, and one of the books that I borrowed, it hadn't been borrowed out for 5 years. I looked at the date, it had sat there for 5 years and no one had borrowed it. And that's why they said they were getting rid of them, because no one borrows them. So that's just a bit of history on my background. And then in 1998, a friend of mine found a mirror. It was working as an electrician at a school in Cheltenham, and they were building a new science section, and he went to throw some cables out into the skip, and when he got out there was 20 microscopes in the skip. So he thought, oh, there's microscopes in here. So he went to the principal and said, what's with the microscopes in the skip? And they said, we're getting new microscopes. If you want them, take them. And then they found a mirror in a cast iron cell under a bench, and they were taking that out to the skip, and that was going to go in the skip. And my friend asked, what is this mirror? And he said, I think it could have come out of a telescope, but it's going in the skip. And he says, well, I better put that in my car as well. And he knew I was interested in astronomy because he'd come down to my place and helped me out with electrical problems, and we used to talk about space. So he turned up with this mirror in the back of his car, and we thought, well, it was one afternoon, so we went to my library and we had a look, and somehow I ended up with, I had 100 books on the shelf on astronomy. I don't know how they got there, but I just kept buying more and more of them. So we sat down for the rest of the day and just flicked through the books. And one of the books, one of the books had this picture in it. And I thought, that's what we want, one of them. And this guy in the middle is John Dobson. And this was sidewalk astronomy. So I thought, yeah, that's what we're going to make. And then this book we got. So what happened? We went to the yellow pages because we didn't have internet, and we thought telescopes. You know, where do you get? And there was only 2 shops in Melbourne. There was a guy over in Heidelberg, Roger Davis. So we headed on over to Heidelberg, and we took the mirror with us, and he had a look at it. He set it up, and he knew a bit about telescopes, and he shone a light on it. And he said, "Yeah, that mirror's okay. That'll work." So we bought a secondary and a focuser and some eyepieces, and we bought a book called Tom Clark, Building Large Dobsonians. I lent the book to someone, it never come back. But this is a picture out of the Building a Dobsonian book, which I got about a year later. And that's John Dobson, that's how he worked. And that was his rough telescope, some of his early telescopes, on a trailer, carting around. The Americans were way ahead of us with Dobsonians. They were like 20 years ahead of us. We were still mucking around with little tiny telescopes here, but they were building all the big stuff. This is Ken here. And so we built the telescope over about roughly a year. We bought some craft wood, and I rolled the upper cage up out of aluminium because we had to, this was like nearly F6 or something, so we had to make it balance. So we made the telescope bit by bit, and so we actually made the telescope tube. We didn't make the box. So and then we set it up and had it rocking on a broom on the ground. So we found the balance point and we put a cross on the box, and I made up some discs on the side there for bearings, and then we made the box, the rocker box, there. So and we got it to balance. And we put it on wheels because we wanted to just wheel it out in the street, and we looked at all sorts of things with the telescope. We had a great time, but we didn't know what we were looking at. We'd seen fuzzy patches in the sky, and then the mirror was coated with silver with lots of holes in it, but we could see things, but it wasn't good, and we thought we should get this recoated, and we rang around a few people. There was Astro Optical in Melbourne, and they said, "Yes, we recoat mirrors, and we've got a chamber." So I took the mirror up to them, and the mirror didn't fit in their chamber. So they sent it off to the CSIRO. So we went all the way up to Siding Springs and sat there on a pile, because once a year they recoat their big mirror, or every now and again, and then they run the chamber like once a year to recoat all this small stuff. So they've got a chamber like half the size of this room, and they just fill it up. So they filled it up, and that went in with it. And they just picked $300. They didn't know what to charge. They just picked, oh, that'll do $300. I said, yeah, great. So we took the telescope outside, the mirror outside when we first got it to work out the focal length, and we leant it up against the back fence and facing north, and we walked backwards and forwards with a piece of wood till the piece of wood caught fire. And we found the focal length was 100 inches exactly. I don't know if he ground the mirror to 100 inches or what. And I thought, well, the person, we knew nothing about this mirror. It's 2 inches thick. It's actually 2 1/8 inches thick. And so there's the telescope, and you can see the picture on the right. It's got a material cover on it. Telescopes always work better with the material cover on. If you're standing next to the telescope, the heat from your body just goes in front of the mirror and ruins your view. But as soon as you put the cover on, that blocks that heat from your body. So we found by testing, and the light would still get in through the side, being such a long focal length, and bounce up, and you have a lot of light in there, so you really needed that light shield to make it work well. So, and I machined all the little blocks in the corner to hold the rods, and I made all the rods exactly the same length. They cut them all on the same machine. So it didn't matter which way we assembled it, it would culminate itself. And you can see on the back over here, there's 3 screws to do the culmination, and there's a plumbing fitting here. And I was going to put a fan in there one day, but I still haven't done it 20 years on. The telescope's down the back of the room, by the way. You probably realise that. There's the Large Magellanic Cloud, what I was looking at, when I was a boy. So that was one of the first things we pointed the telescope at. And we could see all this interesting stuff in there. I took that photo with a 135mm lens. Yes, it was tracking, yeah. I have it on the tracking now, yeah. So, and then we kept going up to Roger Davis at Heidelberg, and he had these magazines there for sale, Amateur Telescope Making Journal. So we bought a few of them, and I got it home, and I thought, this is great, and I read this article on this lost telescope by, what was his name? Wigmore, Robert Wigmore. And I thought, that's interesting, this lost telescope, and they've been looking for it. And this mirror that I got came with this cast iron cell that looked very similar to that cast iron cell on the back of this telescope. So I thought, gee, it looks almost the same, you know. I thought, well, that was interesting. So didn't think any more about it. Maybe this guy made lots of telescopes. And, oh yeah, so that's a bit out of the article here. And it says here, Wigmore made 2 18-inch mirrors, and where's the date? 1893. That's more than 100 years ago. It's 120 years ago. It's a long time ago. And he used to live at Rye. Like, isn't that weird that, like, telescopes coming back? So there's a picture of it. And this was on the roof at Swinburne. But he made it and he donated it to Swinburne Technical College. And there's the cast iron cells that came with the mirror. And when I got these, the mirror was still in there. And it had some brown tar paper in the back. And that sort of looks like that hole in the middle. And we threw that away, and there was all these cork rings in there. The mirror actually sat on cork rings. So that must have been like just to keep it stable. So I thought, geez, I kept coming back and looking at that picture, and I say, yeah, that's interesting. And then this article turned up. The case of the missing telescope. And I thought, oh, the plot thickens. And then an article turned up in the Crux magazine about the lost telescope. Well, here we go again. And then we had Vastrock the following year. That was 2004 when that was in the Crux magazine. And then the next year we had John Dobson came out and he did a fantastic talk at Vastrock, and lots of interesting stories he told us. Bit of more a comedian than an astronomer, I think. And then these pictures turned up of the telescope at Swinburne on the roof of a chemistry building or something. And one of these guys here, I think it's this guy in the middle, is Barry Clark, young Barry Clark. So here's another interesting picture, and it had a crank handle here where you could crank the weight up. It went down through the floor. All this has gone missing, and in one of the things it said it was made, someone said it was made of wood, red gum. These parts were actually red gum. They look like cast iron, but they were actually red gum. This was cast but bolted in. I thought, sort of. Maybe it rotted away, it got left outside. So I decided I'll write a story about building the telescope. That was just the start of it. And it got published in the Frankston Astronomical Society newsletter, or it could have been gone to Morning Peninsula by then. And then my phone rang and said, "You've got our telescope." So, can you come along and show us? We don't want it back. Can you just come along and show us what you've done with the mirror and let us have a look at it? And I said, yeah, okay. So, I'll come along and show you. So, this is Barry Clark here with the glasses, next to me on the end there. He was the guy in the picture back further. That was him there, off to the side. So I think it said he was 15 here at the time. So on the left hand, I'm not quite sure who he is. He was one of the young students from, or he was working at the school.
Looks like Rod Brown, second.
That's Rod Brown, and this guy, I used to know Chris, can't think of his name now.
Chris Fluke.
That's it, Christopher Fluke. Yes, that's it. I've still got his phone number in my phone for some reason. I've never rung him up. And so I took the telescope along, and you can see the design of this telescope. The upper cage actually fits in the box. This is the Tom Clark design. That was the design that I got for the book that I don't have anymore, that I loaned to someone. I should have never loaned it. I just can't get that book again. I can't find one. So this was just rolled up aluminium, 1/2 inch square aluminium, and I made the spider because I'm a veteran turner, tool maker. So we made the upper cage as light as we could, because if you make it too heavy, the telescope you'll have to add lots of weight to the back of it to get it to balance. So you've got to make that as light as you can and as rigid as you can. I think the secondary mirror is about 3 inches on this telescope. And there I am, just showing all the parts off at Swinburne. Everyone's having a look at it. So the whole telescope folds up into that box. So you can see how the upper cage fits inside, and I liked that design, and I thought that's good. I can, and you can seal it up because you've got to keep the spiders out of the telescope. So that's another reason why I haven't put the fan in the back of it, because as soon as you put a fan in there, spiders will get in. They always get in. So it's sealed up nicely, so I can seal the whole thing up and it's protected. It weighs about 100 kilos, and here it is at the Briars now. And it's still down the back of the room here, and I put an extra weight on it because I had the first focuser was 1 1/4 focuser, and when I put a 2-inch focuser on there, then I started putting heavy eyepieces in there, so I had to put a weight on the back to balance it. It didn't balance anymore. And then, not long after I built that telescope, I seen in a magazine this mirror for sale. Some guy up in Queensland had this mirror, and he bought it back from America. And I thought, well, I rang him up and see how much he wanted, and eventually he rang me 6 months later and says, I'll take $3,000. And I said, I'll come up and get it. And he said, don't worry, I'll post it down to you. And I'll take it down to a transport company, and you'll get it in a week. And it was, I think the box was 60 kilos all up. So this mirror is 3 inches thick with a 100mm hole, and it's f3.8. So, and it's got a Cassegrain secondary and a Newtonian secondary. It's got the 2 secondaries come with it. Anyway, he rang me up and says, I've been down the transport company, I've dropped the mirror there. This was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's ringing me. And he says, you'll get it in a week. And then at 12 o'clock, I got a phone call from some depot in Melbourne saying, we've got a mirror here for you to pick up. And I thought, how's that possible? 3 hours, what, from Brisbane to Melbourne? They obviously didn't like the look of it, and they threw it on the first plane and sent it to Melbourne. $55 they charged me. That was a lot better than driving to Queensland and back. So I just couldn't believe it. What, 3 hours? I just put the phone down and it's here. It's like, how did that happen? So I had to race off and get the mirror, and I opened the box up because I thought it might have been full of bricks or something. So I went there and screwed the lid off. Yes, there's a mirror in there, screwed the lid on, then I ran down to the bank round the corner and I sent him the money. And I rang him up, found a phone box and rang him up, and he said, yeah, I've got the money, I've just been to the bank. I've given the okay, they'll hand you the mirror. So I had to go back and get the mirror. It was a bit of mucking around, but eventually I got home with the mirror. And then I had to figure out what to do with it once you've got it. What will I do with this mirror now I've got it? So I sat down and I scribbled lots of bits of paper, and this was one of the scribbles. Like, you've got to, these mirrors, like, they've got to be supported properly or else they'll bend. If you just put them down on something flat, they'll just take up the shape of whatever you put it on. They're so heavy, the glass just sags over it. So there's a thing called a floating cell that they put in these Dobsonians in America. And so I had to come up with all the maths for it. I couldn't find the maths anywhere in any books for this mirror. It was a bit of an odd size. So I had to try and figure it out for myself. Sort of break the mirror up into pieces and then work out where it's going to be supported, which I did. I can't quite remember my train of thought at the time, but lots of scribbling. So once I got that sorted out, I could sort of work on with the rest of the telescope. The book I showed you before with John Dobson in it, this was some of the calculations. So you can get all the calculations now, and on the internet you can get all the calculations. So it wasn't far off with me maths compared with the book. Yeah, so you can see like all the measurements are here, and say for a 22-inch telescope you can look down there and get all your measurements and work out how you're going to do it. So if you're going to build a telescope like this, there's a lot involved in it. Just doing all the maths and working out how you're going to make this mirror cell, because you just look in the telescope and you don't realise that there's a whole heap of mechanism behind it supporting that mirror. You think, oh, this is easy, I'll just throw it in there. The guy I bought the mirror off, he had 4 doors all screwed together, standard doors, and with shagpole carpet in the bottom of the box, and he had the mirror sitting on shagpole carpet. That was his mirror cell. So, and he tried to sell the whole telescope like for $8,000 at the time with doors and everything. I didn't want the doors. I just wanted the mirror, I said. But no one was making me a reasonable offer, and eventually I got it for a reasonable price. So you can see there's the cell that I made. So my first Dobsonian I built out of wood because that's what you did. You followed the instructions, and if you haven't done something before and someone else has done it, you follow what someone else has done. You don't try and reinvent the wheel. But here I reinvented the wheel. I built a whole aluminium, because I work with metal. Working with metal is easier for me. It was more like aeroplane. I riveted all the aluminium together to make it light as possible. This telescope, the mirror was heavier than the other one, but I still wanted to keep the telescope under 100 kilos. So I had to keep lightening it off. Everything I looked at, I had to make it lighter, make it lighter. It's got to be under 100 kilos. The other thing that I needed, it needed to go through a standard doorway, 800 doorway. You've got to think about these things when you get a telescope. Where you're going to store it, your big telescope, how you're going to transport it, and even the doorway is going to slow you up. If you get it home and you want to get it through your front door and it doesn't go through the front door, what are you going to do with it? Put it out in the garage or in the mower shed next to the mower, or what, you know? So I wanted to keep it in the house. I didn't want to keep it in with the mower. So it had to go through the front door. So then, once I got the mirror box done, then I built it, the upper cage and the rods, and just a rough base I made on wheels again. Just thought I'll just put it on wheels for the time being until I figure that out. And at least I can go out and look through it. And I think I did throw a piece of material over it, and I did look through it before I painted it. And I thought, oh, you can see something, it's starting to work. And then I dismantled it all and started painting it. These orange caps are an interesting story. When I was making this, I'll go back to this one. When I was making this, I machined 100mm holes, 300mm holes for air. And then I thought, well, I'll go and have a cup of tea. So I went in the house and I thought, no, I'll have Milo or Ovaltine or something like that. And I pulled down the can and it had an orange cap on it. And I pulled that off and I looked at it and I thought, I reckon that would just clip into the hole perfectly. So I ran out and put it in the hole and just clipped in perfectly. Straight, it was designed to go in a 100mm hole. So then I had my cup of Milo, and then I went to the shops and I bought more cans of Milo. And it was just at a time where they stopped making the metal ones and they went to a plastic lid, like for 6 months. And then they went back to the metal lid again. So I was lucky to get these 100mm caps. So I went down and I bought like 8 cans because I thought I'm probably going to need more of these caps, just to get the caps.
What did you do with the Milo?
Well, I will use it up eventually. I just have to live on Milo instead of tea and coffee. So there it is painted up, and most Dobsonians, the upper case, the bit at the top, would have metal or wood around it. But I thought I'll just have the material shroud will go all the way to the very end, just to make it simple. I like that design. It comes on and off easily. So used it in the backyard a lot, and I wanted this shorter F ratio because you can see I don't need a ladder. Most of the time I just had one block of wood I had to stand on occasionally, but most of the time it would work without a ladder. Where the other telescope, you got tired. I've been standing on the ladder for hours in the night. They'd set it up in my driveway, and the lady next door thought I was crazy, man. What's he doing? All hours of the night standing on the ladder and with this big tube, you know, in the driveway. One night I had a possum come down. Well, there was a gum tree in my way in the front lawn, so I sawed it off. And I put the telescope there because it was a nice clear spot. And one night a possum came along, because it used to come along and run up the gum tree. So it tried to run up the side of the telescope. And I was trying to kick this possum off the side of the telescope. So this telescope folds up into a pretty neat small package. I didn't worry about putting this in the box like I did with the first Tom Clark design, because my ute had a tornado cover on the back, and I thought I want to make it so it fits under the tornado cover. So the telescope was the height of the tornado cover and the top, so it would fit in the ute. So that was my thinking behind that. And the rods were in the blue material case there. And then later on I decided I couldn't find things with the telescope. So I made this new base with setting circles, 360 degrees around on the base. And on the side there's some degrees on the side here. So we can use this to actually find things in the sky, because a lot of the strong star charts, electronic computerized software, it'll convert the time or the right ascension and distance from the equator to elevation above the horizon, and the direction north, south, east, west. So it'll do because those numbers keep changing all the time, but the software will recalculate all the time. And if we've got time, I can show you how that's done. So here it is at the Briars with that, and they used to find things. And we were down the beach one night. There was it Mars going behind the moon, or was it Jupiter?
Saturn.
No, it wasn't Saturn. No, I think it was Mars. Went behind the moon at Parkdale one. Where it was. It wasn't long after 9/11, and we were down the beach in the car park at Parkdale, and there was a whole row of telescopes there on a Monday morning, Monday 1 o'clock in the morning. No one driving up and down Beach Road, only the police went along, and you hear the brakes arc up as they went past. They probably thought we were trying to bomb someplace with all these cannons set up. So we prodded them over and they looked through the telescope.
And they arrested him.
Who makes telescopes? Oh, young Logan has built a new telescope. So there's people still making telescopes. He's just finished this, and this is the ASV's 40-inch Dobsonian that they've just, Peter Reid made it. Peter Reid started off as an amateur telescope maker, and now he does it for a living. I'll look through his first telescope he built. Oh, this was just a bit about transporting a telescope, and this picture up the top, you can see there's a doorway there, so the telescope goes through the doorway. That's where I used to keep them in the backyard. But some people have like a trailer to put their telescope in a trailer. You've got to think, if you're going to build a big telescope, you've got to think what sort of vehicle you've got and where you're going to store it. How much does a mirror cost at the moment? So going to Andrew's communication yesterday, it was a 12-inch mirror is $650, probably made in China, do the job. But if you want a Hubble optics over the other side, these are American dollars. So if we just want, say, an 18-inch, we'd probably want the Pyrex one, so you'd have to double that. So it's about $6 grand, $7 grand, and you go up to a 24-inch, which you're going to be, by the time you get it here, you're not going to get any change out of $20,000. This was just a demonstration of me burning a hole in a piece of paper with a telescope, like I mentioned about working out your focal length when you get your mirror. Now, the secondary mirror. So, of course, you've got to work out how big your secondary mirror's got to be when you're building your Dobsonian telescope or Newtonian. So it captures the light. So, and then the positioning of this is important, this distance back to here, because if you just want to use an eyepiece, and you set up for an eyepiece, you won't be able to do it for photography. The digital SLR, the light won't reach out far enough. So if you want to do photography, you've got to go up to the next size secondary mirror and move it a bit closer, like 35 millimeters closer to your primary. And then you can use it for astrophotography as well. And this is in that Dobsonian building book as well, so something else they've got in there. So normally you wouldn't put the mirror in the centre of the tube. You've got a bit of an offset. So you push the mirror away from the eyepiece a little bit by a certain figure, depending on your F ratio. And the reason you do that is because the diameter across here of the cone of light is a lot bigger than the cone of light there. So you can get away with a bit smaller secondary mirror by sliding it over, capturing all the light. If that was in the middle, you might lose a bit of light here. And by having a smaller secondary, you can, this is obscuring the primary mirror, so the light has to pass this. So if you've got a bigger mirror, you're going to lose a bit of light. So that's something to keep in mind when you're making your Dobsonian telescope. This is another Dob that I made just a few years ago, and this was one in a briefcase telescope. The whole telescope lives in the briefcase. So you've got a briefcase here with a 12-inch mirror in it. I'd seen in America that everyone was building 8-inch briefcase telescopes, and I just wanted to take it to the next level and try and get a 12. I knew a 12-inch mirror would fit in an aluminium case. I didn't really figure out how I was going to do it. So I thought about it for about a year and I came up with a design. And it's pretty much like a yacht, this design. You've only got one rod, and then you've got some cables coming down which you tension up like the mast of a yacht to keep it rigid, or else just having a pole on its own, it would just bend around and it'd just be useless. But that keeps it quite strong. So there's only one knob at the top. You turn the knob at the top and it tensions it all up. So the aluminium case becomes the telescope. It takes about 10 minutes to put together. So that's got it's got a simpler mirror cell in it with just 9 points that the mirror sits on. For a 12-inch telescope, you only need 9 points. And it's all metal inside, so if you're going to build one of these, you'd have to learn how to weld. So I've run out of pictures now, so we'll have to find something else to amuse everyone with.
Just while you're on that, Greg.
Yep.
In restoring the 48-inch, the Melbourne telescope, Hubble Optics were one of the people who expressed interest in the 48-inch mirror.
Yep.
And we are talking six figures.
Six
and
figures.
not the low end.
Not the low end, going.
Well, I don't know what Hubble's was, but there was a range.
So it's going towards the million mark. So that'll be 7 figures.
Let's stick down the middle.
Middle,
side.
500,000.
And that's including, well, that bit above that, including the secondary mirror as well, but not cheap.
Mm. The price of this telescope's going up and up and up.
But that
When
was,
they first started, I thought we could do it for $1 million.
well, I never had that figure, but anyway.
Now it's going to be
However,
20 million.
they have been approached about a composite mirror along the lines of the 40-inch we had made.
Yeah.
And we're talking well under 100,000 for a prefabricated mirror,
Mm.
because solid glass was just too expensive.
Mm. Yeah.
And we've also got a 48-inch mirror, came from Stromlo through Adelaide Uni and finished up at Moreland. And we might be using that as a blank piece of glass, so we're going to get Hubble up, quoted a very low price for putting a hole in the middle and reconfiguring.
Mm.
So that was down around 30,000.
Right. Well, that's pretty good. You've just
You
got to
never
get
heard
it
those
to,
figures?
you've just got to get it to America. Yeah. So,
We had one other thing, Dobson,
John Dobson, yes.
his grandfather, he appears to have done something about the design of Dobsonian Rolfe, had a part to play in the 55 Days in Peking. It was about the cannons and for the Dobsonian mount and the portholes for the mirrors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
That was his
John
grandfather.
Dobson lived near a port or something, and he got the porthole glass and ground the mirrors. I just thought I wouldn't go into that. On YouTube, there's a 1 hour video of John Dobson grinding a mirror. It's well worth watching. Interesting to see how he did it, and it's really everything's very rudimentary the way he explains it. So it's well worth just watching that and get that on YouTube. And right, okay, now I just wish I was a bit better prepared. Here we go. Well, this was. I'll just. I'll amuse everyone with this for the moment. We probably haven't seen this for a little while. This is how you test the length for your telescope, your focal length.
That's a good video for Saturday, Greg.
Yeah, good solar day, yeah. Yes, that's definitely on fire. Don't want to put your eyeball on that eyepiece.
Be good for barbecue.
Yeah. Right, how do we get out of this thing now?
You need an eye for those.
Just wondering what I did with that. Oh, actually, we'll go. This is the briefcase telescope. You probably haven't seen this one for a while. This is me putting it together. I've got another video somewhere, but I can't find it.
You won a prize with that at the South Pacific.
Yeah, I've got a chunk of glass for building this thing. It's up on the shelf somewhere.
Won the Builders Award with that.
Yeah. It weighs 26 kilos, the case. So you go to pick it up and it just, oh, that's heavy. So,
What were you doing at the back of the cell?
I have a door at the back to let air in. Yeah, so I open the back up and then to let the air in. We can probably freeze this thing and find the spot.
Can you take it on the air, on the plane, and call it hand luggage?
Yeah, so this is just to let the air in. And behind here too, there's two culmination screws here. So when you're culminating the thing, you can get to the screws. And I'm paranoid about spiders getting into things, so I wanted that sealed up. So you would have that open to let the air through normally. And you don't need to get to the third screw, because really you only need to adjust the two bottom screws, and the third one is fixed. So you don't actually have to reach that one. So that one didn't have an adjusting screw on it. It was just a ball that on a plate, and you just fiddled around with the other two screws. Yeah, but it all folded down into that case. Yeah. So I wouldn't classify this as a large one. I know the talks about large ones, but telescopes, but it all folds down. These two arms here, these fold down into the box. That's why they're both different. One folds inside the other one. So the whole thing squeezes down into the box. And all the parts go in around it. So yeah, so that's the telescope. So, get rid of this. And how's our time going? 9 o'clock, all right, okay. So we might just finish with that and go on with something else. Yeah. So I'll just show you this picture. So what I did is I bought a 12-inch dog with Dave. We were going away to the South Pacific Star Party. And I had an EQ6 mount, and I made up a couple of horseshoe brackets and some ratchet straps. And we flat packed the base and threw the thing on the telescope on the trailer, and then we ratchet clamped it to an EQ6, and then we took lots of nice photos with it, and then we disassembled it, took it home. And I did use it as a dog for a while, but I converted it into this telescope. But then I sort of missed it. So I had to go and buy another one. So that's why there was a second. And the guy who bought this, he paid $1,200 for this. It's a Bintel telescope. He paid $1,200 for it. He never unpacked it. He left it in the box for a month. And then he put it on ice and space for $600. So someone rang me up. I think it was Paul. Said this guy was got a dog. And so then the guy rang me up and said, yeah, I'll come and get it. It was brand new. $600 for a 12-inch telescope. Some people just have too much money. But no, that's it, I'm having that. All right. Now, sky for the month. Now we're going to go on to ASV. Right-yo, we went to the ASV. Here we go. Hopefully the computer can play this, because this is the better version than the one you see that's on the web. I put this on the Facebook the other day. This is the telescope Dave and I have been working on. I made all, well, and Pierre helped as well. Pierre did all the grinding and painting. It only took her a week. There's no receiver on the end, because they haven't put that on yet. And this wasn't, they were just pretending. So I set the camera up in front of it, thinking that it was just going to stay still all night, and it did. It moved around because they were playing with it. They were pretending to track objects. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. Worked out okay.
It doesn't look as big there.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
8.5 meters across.
It's a fisheye lens. I was actually almost near that post there. Yeah, the fisheye lens were right up close to it. And they had a red light outside. Yeah, those plates, they're 2.3 metres roughly square. That one at the top there, that's 2.3 metres square and 35 mil thick and weighed about 1.5 tons. And the one at the bottom weighed 1.5 tons. Yeah. It was a bit too much for the ute to carry around.
We didn't quite get the dimensions right, I'm told, on the clamps to clamp.
Yeah, well, I had them, they gave me a drawing, and I drilled them to the drawing.
But whoever drew it was wrong.
Whoever measured it was wrong, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so. Okay. So. What have I got in this one? No, that's not what I want. No, this is not good pictures, is it? Here we go. I've got them over here somewhere. Messier star part. Here we go. Rightio. Okay. So for those people who've been to Heathcote, this used to be the bunk room, but they've cleared it out now, so it's a meeting room. So I just showed, just to get the feel, this was on the Friday, just for everyone to get the feel of what it's like at a star party. This is outside, they've got a couple of Barbies, and this was the day before, nothing happening, no one there, no one set anything up. We had the telescope running in this roll-off roof observatory on the Friday night for a while. So this whole building rolls that away. I ended up working on that too. And there's the dish over the side there. I made the rollers that it rolls on. And Jim Trainer donated the money. And there's the radio astronomy section at Heathcote, and that's the dish over the back, the big dish there. And this is their control room. I'll probably need something a bit better one day. You can see there's the plates there. And I just made these some sensors here, the travel stops. Yeah, I had to do that the other week.
Well, they were really lovely and painted by the time they got up there, but it doesn't look like they
they all knocked the paint
It's
off.
just a waste of time, wasn't it?
It's very tough paint we used. It'll
Touch
be
on
right.
that too.
Rod Brackenridge. Rod's just rebuilt his telescope. This was a truss tube Dobsonian with all the trusses, and he got tired of mucking around with all the trusses and going at a culmination, so he's made a wooden tube. He's just looking for something simple now. So he did a nice job. So that's a rebuild. And that's his son's telescope. It was there as well. And this was on the Saturday. People were rolling in, finding a spot under the trees because it was quite hot. It was 4 days around 37 degrees. This is a calculator. What I mentioned before about working out where things are in the sky, this is a calculator, mechanical calculator for doing the same thing, which the software can do. There's Dave. And more people gathering. This is the Lions Club came out and cooked sausages and hamburgers and sold out. There was roughly 400 people there. Sold out ice creams, everything got sold out. I think they had a couple of sausages left over which they gave away. This 10-inch Dob truss tube, that was the door prize. This was the people queuing up to get to the food. Yeah. We ducked in early, like at 5 o'clock before the rush. Yeah, so this is the people. Perry did his trivia competition there. I think we didn't do too bad. We were like third.
We're better than halfway.
Yeah, we're better than halfway. And lots of stupid questions that you know. There's that one. How much did NASA spend on the space pen? And like everyone knows, it's $1 million. So I said, yeah, well, it's $1 million. But Perry said, no, it's all lies. It's not a true story. So we lost the point for that. If we hadn't have done that, we would have been a bit further up there. But, you know, maybe Perry's wrong. We don't know.
A lot of questions were tricks on words, though.
Yeah.
Things that sort of true, but he changed one key fact, and everyone went, yeah, I've heard that before, but
wasn't clear.
Yeah. That's a trickery.
This is going around that building. That building, there's the Jim Trainer Observatory over the back. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than this building, and it moves.
And what, the roof rolls back?
Yeah, it rolls back along these rails. See the rails there?
Oh, yeah, it rolls back and then it's all open at the top.
Yeah, it's all open,
And it
yeah.
takes about an hour to unroll and roll it up.
No, you do
No,
it.
it's got a four-wheel drive winch on it, yeah. Driving back and forward.
And operated it.
No, four-wheel drive
Yeah,
winch.
you have to go up there and crank it open, Ian, every time.
When they first built the observatory, with no telescopes in it, they had sky for the night with everyone on the site in the observatory. That's still
Here's the roof, it's moving, see? They're just using a four-wheel drive winch, they've got tunnels. I made the rollers, that was the only bit I did. But they wanted the most complicated rollers, it didn't need to be that complicated. The 40 inches behind this other telescope, this one's like an 18 or a 20 inch, but they bought this one cheaply.
And if the rain came on suddenly, you wouldn't get it covered.
Yeah, it'd be like the tennis centre, you've got to wait an hour for the close. It's about 6 minutes, 5 minutes.
Actually, the whole, it's actually a special foam concrete next to the walls. That building's actually the designated fire refuge on the site now.
Right.
That's a Bell 40 rated building. So if they have a fire and you're up there, that's the spot where everyone has to go, because theoretically you'd survive in there.
Yeah, but it is like a big oven though, you bring them, everybody.
Yeah, but look at that wall. That wall's about 1.5 foot thick.
Yeah.
You can stay outside, you know,
So?
so you can stay outside. You want-
Yeah, we'll all go inside to the, you know, nice Bell 40 rated shed. And great looking power pole that's along the side.
Actually, Greg, I think that's a 25 inch one, sorry.
No, still we can
That's been ages to
25 I'm using in the middle of the field.
there for weeks.
I mean, this was an extra telescope, it was bought, I think it's about a 20 inch. I've got, I think it's an obsession. And they've got a locker at the back, a lockable locker for the eyepieces, which I like. I think there's something that we need here. Alright, I think we can close that one off. I'll just go back to where I was before. Somewhere here, somewhere. This is the 25 inch here in the field, which I did look through. Get rid of that. I've got no idea what this was. It's some sort of telescope with the Sauri on. Yeah, some sort of tracking. It's you know, what's that? The 200 inch telescope in America with the big horseshoe? Well, that's the horseshoes there. Yeah, so he's tried to copy that.
It's made in China.
No, so I think this is a homemade one, this one. It's what it's like roaming around the field. That's the 40 inch. Yeah, more people. Someone set an airbed up in the field. That's what they thought about it all. Just sleep here tonight. There it is, I'm pointing to it. Yay, that's the bit I did. Then it got dark and people started turning up, and there was an ex-politician there, ex-premier there, doing a bit of a spear. And this is inside the shed where all that data goes to, because eventually they'll get a sensor on there and they're going to map the sky in hydrogen. So that'll go around and, or wait for the sky to turn and then map just the hydrogen frequency, and then you'll get a graph like stronger and weaker, like a train map. And then I'll have to figure out what they're going to do with it once they get that, and maybe look for some other frequency to map. But it's just a starting point. You've got a long way to go. So that's air conditioned, that's the shipping container. So this was going into the night. I walked around. I was going, rather than do a time lapse, I thought there was like 300 people here with Perry in the middle with his green laser, doing a bit of a disco light show, you know. They're pointing at all these different things. And
These clouds that haven't moved.
There's those clouds that haven't moved, yeah. After what, 50 years, they're still there. So this was what it was like walking around. I just thought I'd take a few snaps in the night, just keep moving the camera. There were so many people walking around. If you try and set your camera up, someone's going to kick it over with 400 people roaming around in the night.
Gee, it's getting more and more people. How many people turned up?
Well, there was 400 was the official number that I was told. Yeah, there was 300 places like booked. There was a number of number of tickets that were sold.
I think it was
200. Yeah, it was 277 with the public tickets. Yeah.
They were still rolling up at 8:15.
Yeah, because it was a hot day. Yeah, that's the 40-inch, so they're trying to let a bit of the hot air out of it. They had some dignitaries there, so they said who had to use the telescope for an hour first before everyone else. Well, we're all told to bugger off.
Alan Finkel?
Chief
He opened the observatory, Alan Finkel. I couldn't remember his name. I was going to Google it and I just...
Alan Finkel and Ted Bailey did the dish, yeah.
Yeah, opened the dish, yeah. So I walked around and took a few more photos. Trying to capture some people in these photos, but they keep moving. You know, there's a 30-second cycle, so... And they're blurry, so the telescope seemed to sit okay.
Yeah, I want to have a good chat with Jamie. He was still front too.
But that sort of gives you a feel of what it was like.
Nice guy.
People climbing up ladders and the queues were quite long for the telescopes. So I was lucky that I looked through the day before. I did get a look on the night, but later on it was like 1 or 2 o'clock. Yeah, that's the 40-inch there under the sky. People climbing up ladders in the night. You have to count that, be careful with those steps in the night. Okay, that's it. It's a nice sign, illuminated sign there, wasn't it? I wonder who did the electrical work for that.
I think a friend of Chris Rogers makes them up, doesn't he? He made another one up inside the Cosmic Cafe as well. I think he's a friend of his son.
Friend of Chris's or something,
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me say, I'm a bit of a NASA perv, not a NASA nerd. I follow the NASA tweet sites. I'm just constantly amazed. And nothing fills me up more in my life than being uplifted by the things that people do. And I got to say, I didn't know this was here. I was Premier of Victoria and I didn't know this was here.
There was no start.
There's a message that I don't think too many other politicians know. I don't think they know what you're doing. And maybe we need to know. However, politicians are suspicious of secret societies. Now I write here, and I thought that I was in a Jim Jones convention. You're all sitting in order, waiting to be served the Kool-Aid. Waiting to say some dramatic farewell and be lifted up in the air. What I've discovered about this secret society, you've got artillery arranged. And that is artillery that can bring down just about any drone. I've got to say, I own NASA. When I was just little, some of you are probably as old as me, I had a lucky break here at NASA. I was in the school debating team. And we had a debating final. And I turned up at school and somebody said to me, "Are you ready?" And I thought, "Oh, I had completely forgotten. I was totally and utterly unprepared for the final debate, which is the story of my political career. However, at about 9:30 that morning, the school bells rang. We were all dragged into the assembly hall, and we were forced, against our will, to sit down and watch Armstrong land on the moon. NASA saved me from the evils of debate. I've known NASA ever since. I feel incredibly uplifted by just seeing what you're doing here. I would encourage you to keep going. I would also encourage you to engage your local member of Parliament and simply ask them the question, what have you done for the Astronomical Society of Victoria? I was fortunate to have a visit to the observatory 18 months ago, something like that, and I made a commitment to Perry then, if I can help in any way at all, I'm a dead friend, but if I can help in any way, I'm happy to help. And we're here on that account. And I've been pushing quietly in various directions to get you some more attention. You may not want the attention. You may like this thing that's going on here. I saw that seance circle. I'm suspicious of that. I expect to be elevated later on. But this is an amazing place. Astronomy is the one thing that just overwhelms us all when we think about it. I've had some fairly significant back surgery in the last year, and I've been through the other end of imaging, which Alan was referring to before. And it is magic. And I'm also involved in a project in the city called Magic. And it goes into, that project is based on the fine line between science and magic, and that Alan, I think, knows the same project. We're both quietly involved in another secret society. It's all science. This is just a splendid thing and a splendid place. Congratulations to him.
Splendid because he's
to be
going.
It is challenging.
We've got to get him to cut the root,
Because I put back no, this is, we'll get them. You don't you need delivery this cut.
There we go, let's cut the root.
There we go.
Let me say,
I'm not here.
Can't really, no, definitely not, no. So that's it for Messier. Now, how's our time going? 9:30, so we've got a quick sky for the month. So, evening sky. We were at Parkdale High School the other night and we seen Aldebaran. Here it is, Aldebaran here. And we often say Aldebaran looks a bit like Mars in the night sky, so we'll be able to compare that soon, because Mars will be just below Aldebaran next month. So, something to watch out for. Tonight it's pretty much near the Seven Sisters, Pleiades there, M45. So Mars is heading that way along there. So it's pretty close to that at the moment. So if you desperately need to see Mars, you'll be able to find it. In the morning sky, that's how it looks. You've got Jupiter and Saturn, and Venus has pretty much gone down near the Sun. So can't worry about that. Now, I did mention last month a couple of things, and that's just what I'm going to do tonight. Things that we need to do. This was the magazine. You probably haven't bothered reading it. So we've got Telescope Learning Day, Saturday. There is a shadow transit. It's in the morning. So if you want to get up really early on the Saturday, you can see a shadow transit, bio shadow transit. So I've marked all the shadow transits on here, but more important is April. So on the Monday, the 1st of April, there'll be a double shadow trend. So I put it down here. There's a picture here of what it looked like. But it will be very low on the horizon, so you might have to come here to have a look at it. So I just chuck this aside for a second, and I'll show you what it looks like. Come on, little computer. We're getting there. So this is at 11 o'clock on the April the 1st, and it will be low on the horizon in the east. And you'll see Europa in the middle, a shadow Europa in the middle, and Ganymede will just be on the edge. And as time goes on, it'll get better and better as it gets higher up. But you should be able to see these two dots travelling across. And you'll see Europa just coming onto the edge down the bottom here. And you'll see it'll go in so far and then it'll disappear. You can normally see it just go in a small distance to about there, and then it'll sort of it's gone. So that's something that we should do. And then we'll bring it back into here. And then on the 25th, Anzac Day, we're going to have Saturn next to the moon, going behind the moon. And so that's going to be very low on the horizon again, but it is doable here, looking towards the east. So when the moon comes up in the east, Saturn should be just sitting beside it here. So I've got a little one of it here. There, that's how it will look. And and it all happens pretty quick. We'd have to be pretty quick because it'll I think we've got to lock this in the middle. Center. And then we go to minutes up here. It all happens pretty quick, like that, and it's gone. Just a matter of minutes. And then we'll have to wait for it to pop out the other side. But it won't be as interesting because the moon will be dark on this side. You'll get something to the telescope. You'll get the edge of the moon.
So it's a whole hour.
Yeah, it'll be. Yeah, no, it's only like half an hour. It goes across in half an hour.
But it comes,
Yeah.
the
The moon
edge
passes.
of the moon though is actually in shadow. Is that the idea? Is it?
Yeah, the moon's up here. The moon's up here, and Saturn will pop out half an hour later. It'll just go in here at 11 o'clock, and at 11:30 it'll pop out the other side.
But you'll see Saturn, but you won't see it, well, it just appear all of a sudden.
It'll just appear all of a sudden. Yeah, but in the telescope you would see a certain amount of light on the moon there. You would see part of it. If you look at the moon, the dark side, you can still see something. So it is doable. We'll chuck that aside, and then this is today. This is the sky today now. So this is like not quite now, but so what we'll do is we'll go forward with the time. So when Mars sets tonight, Mars is still on the horizon down here, so if we go to find, and it shows you here which planets are in the sky. And when Mars dips below the horizon, that disappears too. So you can see Mars goes off the list. See, no planets in the sky now after, what is it? 9:52. So 9:52, no planets in the sky. Just a little interesting fact there.
Will any planet appear before dawn?
Yeah, something will come up. Something will come up. If we go forward, we'll see which planet comes up. Probably Jupiter. There it is. See, Jupiter will pop up at midnight. And they'll keep, more planets should pop up, yes, as time goes on. And someone asked me, does this happen on Saturn? So I thought I'd better find out. So the first time it's going to happen on Saturn, the next time it'll happen on Saturn will be in 2025. So it's a bit of a wait. So we'll have Titan going in front of Saturn and throwing a shadow transit in 2025. That's about the same time the eclipse is on in Sydney, isn't it? 2025.
2028.
28, right. Oh well, we can do this before that then. But the only problem is, this has a bit of a green look because it's just below the horizon from here. So we just dip out. So we've got to go to New Zealand to see it, or somewhere in that direction that's coming up a bit earlier. Yeah, so we're going to dip out on that. But if we went to America or New Zealand, we'd be able to see it. So all these guys are going to be able to film it and throw it in our face. You couldn't see it. So there you go, some useless information for you. Okay, so I'm done. You can have a cup of coffee now. Is there anything else we need to mention? I think
Thanks,
that's
Greg.
it. Any questions? No? All right, coffee. Is the kettle running?
Yep.